Hello and welcome to Wisdom Bites. Hope you're well. Thank you once again for joining us. Very much appreciated. And in today's packed program, I'm going to be looking at the Bitcoin price through the lens of the SPX, the dollar, the 60-day cycle, and the larger picture view to have a look at exactly where the possibilities and the probabilities are for the Bitcoin price. We're stuck in the range of between 31 and 25, and the million-dollar question is, which direction is it going to break? I'm going to have a look at one indicator which seems to highly predict when the bounce may come. So if that sounds interesting, then without further ado, get yourself a cup of tea, sit yourself down, eyes on the screen, and let's get cracking. Okay, before I begin, the usual polite reminder, please remember everything in my videos is just for educational purposes, so always do your wider research before you make any investment decisions or any swing trade decisions. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the SPX, and the last time we had a look at this, I put these two lines on to suggest the top might well have been reached for the SPX. So we had three resistance points here, and this point here where we had a look at it last time. And this was giving us a high predictability that we may well have topped out on here, and then this was on its way down. So where it is currently is it's come to the neckline here, but as you can see from here quite clearly, it's broken this neckline and this neckline. And what we have is a head and shoulders pattern that's now breaking out. And if we were to measure that head and shoulders pattern from the top there to the neckline, that would take the price for SPX all the way down. So this breakage of this head and shoulders pattern would take the price to around about these levels here. You can see these resistance points all the way along here to just above the 4,000 level here. So this is what the SPX is telling us. And obviously if it actually just fades below that and then bounces up, then obviously we'll get a different picture. So this is what we're hoping, but on the whole, it's a higher probability to break down to the downside. And if we have a look at the cycles indicator, the DSS Bressart, we can see that the market is about to turn, but it may have a little bit more to go down here. So that would actually tally with the price action over here. So looking at the dollar, we're on the reverse side of that, and that is that we're coming to the neckline over here. So a lot of resistance and support at these levels where we are now. And I said in the last week's video where we were just below this resistant line that we may have one more leg to go to that resistance point before coming down. But we've had a very strong run with the dollar here, as you can see. So we may well just fade above it before coming down. So we'll just have a look at what's happening here. I need to keep an eye on this. There is going to be a turnaround happening very shortly. And we can also see quite clearly there is a divergence occurring on the Bressart with what's happened with the dollar going to the higher side here. So it looks like with a high degree of probability that we're about to have a turnaround on the dollar, which is obviously good news for the Bitcoin and the general markets. Okay, so going on to the 60-day cycle now, if we look at the price action through the lens of the 60-day cycle, we can make some head or tail about what is actually currently happening here. In the previous cycle, we bottomed out here at day 68 and had a first top on day 7. So this could well be the cycle top here, depending on what happens at this stage of the cycle on this side. We've obviously gone through the middle part of this current 60-day cycle, which ends here at the red dotted lines around about the 20th or 21st of October. So as part of this cycle here, what we've now got is, having broken below the previous low of the cycle, we've now got a failed cycle one more time. And why that's important to note is that it gives you an insight into exactly what's happening over here, and gives you the probabilities that with a higher degree of probability, having actually had a failed cycle, it seems unlikely that we're going to get above previous highs over here like this. So this is why I was saying that the highest it'll probably go is to about 28.5 to 29. Anywhere around here, then I would be expecting some sort of a rejection before a bigger move to the downside one more time. That could be down to the 25 level again, or could be to much lower levels, but certainly a very high degree of probability to be rejected here. We haven't quite made it there, but obviously if we do make it to the 31, I'm very happy to be wrong and be surprised if it does. Quite a lot of people ask me in the comments about portfolio sizing. Having come back to retest this multiple times now, having broken up here at the 25,000 level, this was quite a healthy move back here, and hence we got a big bounce to these levels, but we didn't clear this. And now for the third time, we're back down to those levels one more time. And this seemed very bearish. So that prompted me to take 50% off the portfolio with the Bitcoin miners. So if I was holding Bitcoin, I would have been waiting, as I mentioned before, to around about the underside of this support line here, to around about the 28.5 to 29. And this would be a very high probability rejection here. So this would be a very good point to take some positions off the table for Bitcoin. And that decision would be to protect the downside that you would expect at this point. And this would obviously be a very good point to buy back, with the proviso that if it breaks this level, then you need to get out one more time. But this would have been a very good point to buy back for a bounce back to the upside here. And there is obviously that very big event that is to come yet, and we don't know when it's going to be. It could be in the next few weeks, it could be in the next few months. And that is the potential ETF. If we get positive news of that, that could really scupper any plans in this range here. So this is my view, that on balance, with the ETF news in the background that can come at any time, my thinking is that it will become a monumental event to the point where the price will be driven much higher levels to what we haven't seen for a long time. For me to miss that monumental move would be catastrophic. So for me, on balance, it is better to be in the market than out of the market. So for me, it's riskier to be out of the market than in the market, knowing fully well that if this comes back down and goes down further, then you have to then carry that portfolio down to lower levels. That's the risk we take. And everybody has to make their decisions. And for me, on the daily time frame here, all this becomes intermediate stuff to the bigger picture, which is this trend line going to the upside here. And as I keep reminding everyone every week, we must keep this bigger picture view in order to give us a balanced look into this Bitcoin price and not get swayed by the day-to-day movements in its price action. So this is where we've got to get to. This is our destination, and we need to make sure that we make good decisions along the way. We're on this journey here, and the intention of the market is to take your money anywhere along here and to shake you in and out of the market. Yes, there will be opportunities along the way, but you need to be very careful and selective of what those opportunities are. So on this 4-year cycle view, this is the end point here, and we're getting closer to the halving at this point, around about the April 2024. This is where the real fireworks will take place, with a big run to the upside. Until then, this is very choppy waters. So if you want a simplified view of all this, then this is the way to look at it. If we go into the weekly chart here, we can see quite clearly that 31,000 is the upper limit currently over here. And the strong support level is the 25,200. And in a simplified way, we can say that while we're above the $25,000 mark, this can be still regarded as bullish because we haven't broken the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders over here. So very simply, we're in this range between 31 and 25, and until it breaks to the downside here, we can't really be bearish, and until it breaks up above here, we can't really be bullish. So we're in really choppy waters, which is exactly what Bitcoin tries to do before the big parabolic move, which should come after the halving. So this is what it's trying to do. And it depends on what people want to do with their portfolios and their positions. And this first test of the 25 seemed to be very healthy, and I would have expected a bigger move to the upside towards our first peak that I've been talking about for 9 months. But that didn't materialize, and we've now backed down to testing it for the second time. And this was really giving us a bearish picture here. And that second retest of the 25 was telling us very clearly just to be careful. And those with a discerning eye will notice something quite important here developing. And that is, there is a head and shoulders potential forming over here. So if we were to come back down to retest this 25.2, that would be the completion of the head and shoulders. A little bit like this one down here. We've got a mini one up here. And if you were to measure that, the potential downside from the top of this to the neckline, that would give us a potential downside to around about the $20,000 mark here. And that would make sense because that's the downside picture that I've painted over the last many weeks as this price has been coming down. That the 20,000 is the critical level, and this is also telling us the same thing. But there's no guarantee this is going to happen or that this right-hand side of the head and shoulders is going to form. From the indicator that I mentioned in the title of this video, that indicator may well be giving us the better clue for everything else in terms of the direction of the Bitcoin price. And if we look at the daily chart, the bullish narrative that I can draw here, despite the retesting of this 25.2 and giving us a bearish picture, but out of all that, there is a bullish narrative developing here, and that is that we've just topped out here at exactly around about 27.5, and we are on our way to the downside. But the thing to look out for here, if we're going to get a turnaround, is creating a higher low up here. So we've bottomed out at this point and topped out at 27.5, and we're now coming back down, and it may well be we're creating a higher low from this point here. And the price to look out for at this point would be the Fibonacci retracement 61.8. If we take it to the top at 27.5 here, having a closer look, we can see that the 61.8 is at around about 25.7 to 25.8 in this region here. So we've got one more leg down to those levels. Currently we're at the 50% level here at the 26,100. So 25.7, 25.8 is a very good strong level on the 61.8 Fibonacci, where we could see a very good bounce back to the upside. And then we create this double bottom here. And then we need to clear this level again, 27.5, and then clear this level here at 28.1. And the indicator I've mentioned in the title of this video, which gives us a very high accurate prediction of where the price may bounce, is given by this one here, the RSI multiple time frame. So it's the RSI smoothed over a multiple time frame to give us this picture here. So when we bottomed out at the 15,400, so from this level here, if we take it from there, we can see that we came back up and we bounced off this level once here and then twice over here. So this provided a very good support for a bounce to the upside. And if we move to the left and see how it's performed since then, one more time, it came back down to this RSI MTF and bounced off it. This proved a fake out to the downside. But look what happened here. We bounced off it one more time here. And another time we bounced off it here. And bounced off it one more time over here. And if we move to the right further, another bounce and another bigger bounce over here. And then we held support, but then fell all the way down here one more time. So another fake out to the downside. So we can see that most of the time it tends to have a very good bounce. And the last time was this bounce here, which we got on the 12th of September. Right on the line one more time. And as you can see here, we are currently there at 25,700, which is the price I've just shown you with the 61.8. So this is giving highly predictive behavior on the 61.8 with a confluence of this RSI MTF. So it may well be that we bounce off here for a move to the higher side. Then we'll be faced with a challenge of getting above the 27.5 and the 28.1. Those two levels, if we can get past that, would give us a run up to the 29,000. So judging by how the RSI MTF behaves and where the price bounces for the Bitcoin price, this seems to be like an 80% accurate bounce from that trend line. Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, I showed you this personal development tool called the Wheel of Life. And quite a few comments I got was the how to actually use it. Well, I can tell you how I've used it over the last 25, 30 years. And that is by combining it with a technique called the 4Ds. Now, you may have come across this, but it was a technique that I'd first heard of from Brian Tracy. And the video I'm going to play of him giving an explanation of how to use the 4Ds in terms of this personal self-assessment tool that we have here. This self-assessment tool is probably the most powerful tool or template that we can use as a guide in our life to get from where we are to where we want to get to over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years and beyond. Once you put this into practice, you will never look back and you will be absolutely amazed at the results and outcomes you'll get. So I'm going to now play a little video of Brian Tracy explaining the 4Ds. It's only a few minutes, so please listen very carefully to some of the very important points he makes before he goes into the 4Ds about how to be successful.
Let's talk now about the 4Ds of financial success. More than 80% of self-made millionaires in America and worldwide began with nothing, or in many cases, far less than nothing. I can certainly relate to that because when I was growing up and right into my early 30s, I never had any extra money with which to start a fortune. It seemed to me that there was always enough, if not more than enough, bills to absorb every penny I earned. I was always in debt. And even if a great business opportunity did come along, I wouldn't have been able to do anything with it. As I began studying financial success and self-made millionaires, I noticed that almost everyone around me was in pretty much the same boat. The idea of becoming really wealthy was a distant dream with very little possibility of coming true. You may be in the same situation today with more bills than money or assets. The statistics are a little scary. Of 100 people who reach retirement age, according to insurance industry statistics, only one will be wealthy. 4 out of the 100 will be financially independent. 15 will have some savings put aside, and the other 80 will be dependent on pensions, still working, or broke. And this after a lifetime of well-paid work in the most affluent society in human history. Now, why does this happen? There are 2 main reasons why people retire poor. First, they never decide to retire rich. They wish and hope and pray, but they never make a firm, unequivocal decision that they're going to do it. Second, even if they do decide to retire rich, they procrastinate until it's too late. They always have some good reason for putting off the process of saving and investing and building a financial estate. So if you sincerely want to beat the odds, to achieve financial independence and retire wealthy, there are 4 critical steps that you must take, all starting with the letter D. The first step is desire. You must want it badly enough to make an unshakable commitment and to be willing to make sacrifices of all kinds. The more intense your desire, the more likely it is you will overcome all the obstacles between you and your financial goals. The second D in this formula is decision. You must make a decision right now to do whatever is necessary and be willing to pay any price, go any distance within law to achieve your goal. This decision is the turning point in your life. The third D for mastery is determination, which is to keep at it until you succeed in spite of all the problems and obstacles you will experience. And the fourth D is discipline. It's the discipline to master yourself, to develop the habits necessary for achieving financial independence. Those are the 4 Ds: desire, decision, determination, and discipline. And you can measure how successful you're going to be in the future by measuring how well you're doing in each of those on a scale of 1 to 10. So give yourself a grade. How intense is your desire on a scale of 1 to 10? How intense is your decision-making capability, scale of 1 to 10? How determined are you to be successful, scale of 1 to 10? And how strong is your self-discipline on a scale of 1 to 10? And wherever you're weak, just go to work and bring up your score. Your whole life will change as a result.
So there you have it, the 4 Ds. And that's based on having the desire, making the decision, having the determination, and finally the discipline to carry out your goals and objectives. So what he's really saying there is that if you take a look at one of these areas like career, for instance, let's say on your career ladder, you're doing really quite well and you have the desire to become the managing director of the company that you work for. So that would be around about a 9 or a 10 around here. And currently, let's say you're on here at 7. So you may well have the desire, the first D, to get to become a managing director of your company over here at the 10. But that may well be the desire of 80-90% of the rest of the employees in your company. But what will set you apart is the second D, and that is the decision. Because most people, they all have this desire, like we all have a desire to have a big house, a big car, very expensive holidays, etc., etc. We all have desires for that. But the people who actually carry it out are the ones who decide to go forward with it. And that's where they make the decision. And 90% of people don't make that decision. So once you made the decision then to go from where you are in your company to where you want to get to, i.e. the managing director's position, once you've decided that, then that triggers off a series of events whereby you sit yourself down, you make time to give yourself time and effort and energy to write down your plans, your goals, your targets of what you're going to do in terms of achieving this goal that you've got here of becoming a managing director of a company. So just by making that decision, it's going to trigger off a sequence of events which will then give you a further template of setting the goals and setting the targets and setting the vision to get from A, i.e. from point 7, to B, which is your managing director's position. And obviously, if you're going to be realistic, you'll know that such a challenging goal will require you to be coming across a lot of issues and challenges and problems and difficulties along the way. And this is where you get the determination and the discipline along that journey, that every time you fall, you get yourself up, you dust yourself down, and you keep going until you meet your objective of this managing director's role. So this is how you use the 4 Ds. Have the desire, make the decision, make sure you're determined to carry it through, and when you have issues and difficulties along the way, it requires the discipline to get yourself up, dust yourself down, and keep going. And you do that with all of these areas. Do you not think that if you did that with each of these areas, that it's going to get you much further than where you are today? And one of the things I can tell you is that it's very easy to predict the next 5 years of a person just by looking at his last 5 years. If you have a look at the people around you and have a look at what they've done over the last 5 to 10 years, you'll notice that they haven't really progressed very much in those 5 to 10 years. So you can predict with a high degree of probability that they're 5 or 10 years ahead will be about the same, unless you have a template like this. This will take you from the B roads and the C roads and the D roads of life to the super highway, the motorway, the fast lane of the motorway. This is what this will do for you. What I can tell you from a personal point of view is that when I first started using this back in the 1990s, I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and my career was basically in the pharmaceutical industry, and that's where I thought I was going to retire, until I came across all these personal tools in the personal development industry, and this was the major one, what I can say really completely transformed my life. So that by 2005, I had retired from working for anybody. So since 2005 until now, I've only worked for myself. And in the midst of that, using these tools and watching videos from Brian Tracy and especially Jim Rohn, which I've mentioned many times in the past, and I'm talking about more than 350 videos of Brian Tracy. I remember watching them around about the time when YouTube came onto the scene, around about 2001, 2002. And I recorded all of them, so whenever I went out in my car, all I did was listen to Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy giving advice which really inspired and motivated me to have a very high positive mental attitude and the belief that I can do anything that anybody else can. And when you have that every day, every week, every month, sooner or later, it takes you down a road where you really didn't think that you would ever go down. So this is how it's helped me in the past, and I hope it will do the same for you as well. There is another video which I'm going to show hopefully next week, which is the third part of how to use this Wheel of Life. So first of all is to have this template called the Wheel of Life. It's a self-assessment tool, as I said. The second thing is to use it, you need those 4 Ds, but before you really get into it, there is one thing, and it's a topic that I covered a couple of years ago, and it's a topic that nobody seems to pay much attention to because they think it's some sort of a funny topic to discuss or even talk about. And that's because society doesn't deal with this very well. And I'm going to show you a video which will absolutely transform your life. It is another video by Brian Tracy, but it's a video I saw more than 20 years ago, and I can tell you the profound effect it had on me. So that's for next week, and if you use that to clear your head, so what that video will do is to absolutely clear your head. It's like all the jumbled up emotions and interactions with people, the negativity, all the grievances and bad feelings and all that you might be carrying for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. What that video will do is absolutely clear all that junk out of your mind, so you have an absolutely crystal clear brain and mind, and a mindset to then use this template with the 4Ds, and you'll be amazed with yourself how far you can go with it. So that's for next week. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Hope you found value in the video. If you did, then please remember to click the like button as well as subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you have any comments, questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.